Hey guys, so we're going to attempt to do this with my speaking as I film rather than voiceover, because hopefully Duncan's got no calls, so wish me luck. So I'm just going to teach you how to do these little crochet rainbows. They're really good fun. There's actually two versions here. These two here are single layered, whereas these two are double layered, so they're a little thicker and a little more stable. I'm going to show you how to do these ones, which are great for hanging on a wall, because they will just sit flat against the wall, whereas these ones, they could be hung from a string on the ceiling or something. These ones are really simple to do, and you're basically just doubling the stitches of these to work in the round, but I'm happy to do a tutorial for these if people are interested. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to do these ones. So I'm going to show this one, but this one is literally just double the amount, but I'll go into that. So obviously you need some scissors and your chosen yarn, which for me is 6 colours. Some people like to do a rainbow with 7 colours. You can do anything you want really. I'm using up scraps of balls I've got left. This is literally the last of the orange I got, so we'll see how we go. But we're going to get it done hopefully. And these are DK weight yarns, so I'm using a 4mm hook. Put it up the right way. So just match the hook to the size yarn you're having. So like if you've got an Allen, maybe use a 5mm, and if you've got chunky, use a 6mm, that sort of stuff. So as I said, the only difference between these two here is that I've done 1 row of each colour on this one and 2 rows of each colour on this one, and it's gave a really good size difference, so you can change that up and do 3 rows and get a really big one. Just bear in mind that you gotta try to keep the arch going as you do it, but it stretches quite nicely because we're doing this in US double crochet, UK treble crochets. Okay, and the fringe we add on at the end. Now, as this is reclaimed yarn, you can see my fringe is a little wavy. When you're doing it with new yarn, you will have a fully straight fringe. But I'm not too fussed, this is just for fun, so I don't care that it's a little wavy at the moment. So let's pop these out of the way and we'll get started. Pop them up there. So when we're doing this, we're going to start down here on the bottom middle colour, which hopefully you can see is the purple. So I'm sorry if my watch keeps going off. So we find the purple, and we're going to start with the purple, which on my screen looks a little blue right now, but hopefully on your screen it will look great. I promise this is a dark purple if you're seeing blue. So we're just going to start with a magic ring. If you don't know how to do a magic ring, it's really simple. You're going to hold your tail end of yarn over the palm of your hand, take your work, wrap it around the back of your fingers, back over the front there, and then back over the back. But when we do over the back, we're going to cross it so it crosses over that yarn. You don't need to stay there, we just need to dangle there for a minute so that we can pop our hook in and hook it through and underneath. And then you want to pinch where that yarn is coming in so that it's stable, and give the working yarn a little pull so that the stitch is approximately the same size as your hook, the sort of size you normally have for a stitch. And then we're just going to secure that by yarning over your hook and pull through. That's now secure on there, and it's not going to drop your loop or anything. And when we're finished, this will be tightened up just like you do with a normal magic loop, but obviously we're going to make it stay straight rather than in the round on this. So as we're doing UK treble crochets and UK double crochets, we're going to want to chain 2. Now obviously normally you chain 3 for double treble crochet, but we've already done 1 by securing it in place, so we only need to chain 2. Then I'm going to yarn over, go through the loop, yarn over, come back out, yarn over, go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2, and that's your normal double crochet US, treble crochet UK. I'm not going to show you any more on how to do that, because if you want to learn how to do each stitch, then there will be videos coming that show you how to do them. Some I've already done, so do have a look, and more will be coming soon. So what we're going to do for this one, as you can see here, we've got 6 to start with, and that's what we're going to work with. So we've done 2 already because we've got the starting chain and the one I've just shown you. So we're going to do 4 more. Try not to let your work get tangled. I always leave a really long tail, so sometimes it gets caught in my yarn. 1 more, so we've got our 6. Now we're just going to pull that tight, but we're not joining in the round, so it's just going to end up laying flat. So once we've done that round, now if you're doing the big one, you're going to want to do the next round in the purple, but we're going to do the small one, so we're going to switch to the blue. So leave a good tail end because we're going to make a fringe anyway, so you might as well include the tail ends in your fringe. So just chop it off, pop your blue, your purple out of the way, and grab your blue. Okay, now we're going to hook your yarn through your purple and then pull the purple down nice and snug so that it's now the blue attached and the purple's tucked inside. Now, most people would just chain and turn your work at this point, but I like to work into the stitches rather than having the outside chain separately on the very edge, because I'm going to crochet around the edge at the top anyway, so no one's going to really notice. And you've got a fringe along here, so it all looks good. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work and we're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet there. So now our yarn is actually in the stitch, because obviously these ones we go in the stitch and we want this one to be in the stitch really to look neat. So we're now inside that stitch and we can chain 2 or 3 depending on what you prefer to do for your height of your stitches. Depends on how tight you do your chains. I tend to do 3 for these because I want a good curve on them. So, and then we're just going to do 2 double crochets in every stitch. So we've got the chain here which counts as the first one. So we're going to go into that same stitch and do a second double crochet or UK treble crochet, and now we're going to do 2 in each one. So we're doubling our work from 6 to 12 stitches. So nice simple math. Because we started with 6, each row will increase by 6. So if you know your 6 times table, you're good to go. So remember, we should end up on 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 10, and we're going to go into the top of that chain 3 that we did to do 2 stitches into there to give us our 12. Some people forget about doing the very end chain, that chain where you have to go into the top, and that's how they end up with not enough stitches. So always make sure that you remember to go into the top of that chain. So that's our next row done. So again, we're going to snip our yarn and grab the next colour, which for us at the moment is green. So you can do this any colour you like. You could even make it all one solid colour if you really wanted, it's up to you. I went with traditional rainbow colours because it just seemed like a fun thing to do. So again, we're just going to pop that yarn in and pull it tight so that it's in there nice and secure. And then again, turn your work and slip stitch into that first stitch so we're lined up in the same position. So it just sits nicely. And then we're going to work this row. Now this row, if you remember, we did double in 2 in each stitch across. This time round we're going to do our chain 3 here, which counts as 1, and then we're going to move on to the next stitch and do 2 in there, then 1 in the next, 2 in the next. So there'll be 1 stitch in between each increased row. And that's why it increases by 6, because that's how many gaps we're leaving. Okay, so I've done the 1 there that counts, so this one should be 2. So 2 double crochets or 2 treble, and then the next one will be just the 1 in it, and the next one will have 2 in it. This is just like a basic amigurumi or circling crease. You follow the same basic rules for doing normal increases. I do have videos on how to do that, so please do check them out if you're not sure. I'm just going to keep doing that around. It's better if you have a middle fed ball, but I just grabbed a random green out because the ones I used for them is now gone, so I had to grab a new ball. The problem when you make lots of samples, you might end up using all your scrap yarn that you were going to teach with. Didn't plan it well, but oh well, I still had plenty of green left, so we're good. Just unravel a little. See, now if you've done this right, we'll always end on an increase stitch, which remember is in the top of that chain 3, because we began with a single stitch. You always end with the opposite one, because if it was in a circle they would follow pattern. So that's our next row done. So again, we're just going to snip that yarn and grab our next colour, which for us is yellow. And again, different yellow this one. It's actually the yellow I used on this one, not that one, because I used up all of that one. So your little scraps are really handy for this sort of project. Pop it in, pull it tight. Turn your work, and remember we're slip stitching into that first stitch. If you don't like doing that, you can just stick to chaining where you are. It's just a personal preference, and that's where I like to do it. So we do our chain 3, cancel our first double crochet, and this time we're going to do 2 double crochets. So the next 2 stitches we'll put 1 in each, and then do an increase stitch. So we did 1 gap, we've done an increase, 1, and then an increase on the green. So we're going to do 1, 2. And then an increase on the yellow. Now obviously they don't, when you're working in a round, they line up with each other. But when we're working backwards and forwards, they don't line up on top of the increases. They actually are shifted by 1. So don't worry about that. This is why it's best to count for this and not look. So we've done 2. So then we're going to do an increase in this one, and then do the next 2 stitches as just a single stitch each, and then the next one we're going to do as the increase stitch. And this pattern is what we follow no matter what size you're making. You'll always increase the amount of single stitches that are in between the increase stitches to keep your shaping. It always goes up by 1. Apparently my middle feed ball doesn't even want to feed properly, that's good. And last 2 single stitches, which of course are double crochet or treble crochet, and then that last one on the top of the chain 3 should be your increase, so 2 double crochets or treble crochets UK. Okay, and then that's that row done. So we've done our foundation, and then we had no normal stitches in between. It was just increased the whole way for the blue, and then for the green we had 1 stitch in between 2 increases, and for the yellow we had 2 stitches in between 2 increases. So the next row following suit will have 3 stitches in between your increases. So again, chop off your yarn and grab your next colour, which for us is orange. and secure that in place. Remember, we're slip stitching into that stitch so that we're lined up properly, and doing our chain. Remember, now we want to do 3, so that counts as 1, 2 and 3 straight stitches before we come to our increase stitch. You'll soon notice in pattern that because we're turning backward and forward, our increase stitch is always on that single stitch just before the increase stitch. So you can learn to read the stitches and see where they go. But if you're used to going into the increase stitch because you're working in the round, it's best to count to start with. Okay, so we've done our increase. We're going to do 3 separate stitches. And then do our increase. And this is really a quick and simple little project that's fun to do, and it really brightens up the house if you hang them all around on your walls everywhere. If you live in a rented property like me, everything is beige, cream and white, so some colour is quite nice. These are our last 3 single stitches in here, so our last 3 double crochets or treble crochets UK, and then into the top of that chain 3 do your increase stitch, so 2 trebles or 2 doubles whether you're US or UK, and then again snip the yarn. Look how we're doing, see, so now we're going to move on to the red, which of course following pattern will now have 4 stitches in between your increases. And we're almost done. Turn around, slip stitch into that stitch and do chain 3. Remember, we want 4 this time, so the chain counts as the first one. That's 2, 3 and 4, and then we do our increase stitch. And again we do 4 stitches, 4 double crochets or UK treble crochets, and do your increase. Now if we were going to go and do more rounds or more colours, you just follow suit, so the next round would have 5 increases instead of 5 between your increases instead of 4. So it's really pretty straightforward what you're doing. You should be able to now adjust this to any size that you want. remember the last stitch is that top of that chain 3, and it is an increase stitch. Okay, that's the base of our rainbow done, but we're not going to cut the red off yet because we're going to crochet, single crochet, which is your UK double crochet, back along here, creating a little loop. You can see here we've got just a little loop here, and we want that at the halfway point, so depending on how many rows you've done will depend on where. You could just wing it, fold it in half, say there, and do it, or you could count it, it's up to you. Now we've done 6, 12, 18, 24, 30 and 36, so half of 36 is 18, so that's where we're going to do. We're going to go to stitch 18, do our loop and then continue down. So again, we're going to turn our work and go into that stitch and chain 1 and then single crochet all along until we get to the 18th stitch. Okay, so I've done the 18th stitch, so now on this small one we're just going to chain 3, but on the bigger ones I chained 6, just so that you've got a loop relevant to the size of the item you're making. So 1, 2, 3 chains, and then carry on single crochet into the next stitch and work your way back down the other side, and then we'll be done. All we've got left to do is add the fringe. Make sure you get that single crochet in the top of that chain 3, and then just yarn over, pull through, snip your yarn and pull it through so it's nice and secure. And that is the bulk of your little rainbow done, so just kind of encourage it down into shape. Once the fringe is on, that will also encourage. Now obviously there's an excessive amount here, but I like to leave an excessive amount so I can trim it to the size that I want, rather than accidentally leave too short of an end. So you just need to find something to create your fringe. I have a book that I just wrap around the book and then snip, but you might have a fringe creator for all I know. You just want to grab any old book. This one happens to be a Tunisian stitch guide, and grab your yarn that you're going to make the fringe from. Now I tend to, on these smaller ones, I tend to put 3 lots in, and on the bigger ones I put 7 in, because obviously there's more, and I like to put 1 extra in just to tidy it all together. You could do 6, but I think 7 just looks neater. But 3 strands per colour, so 3 this side, 3 that side, is plenty for these smaller ones. I think they look pretty good like that. So just wrap your thing around. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Snip it off. We'll pop that red yarn out of the way now. Take one of your strands, fold it in half, get your crochet hook, pop it through your stitch. So for the first red one, we're going to put it in that single crochet that we did there. Pop it in. Now, when we pull the strands through, I like to take the one that we've left hanging next to it closest as well, because I just think it secures it in much better. So pull that through too, and then just pull on your actual fringe piece, locking down, and that just locks that piece in as well then, so it's in there nice and secure. So grab your next strand. Now we're going to go into these little roll holes there. We're going to go into that first one there and pop that in and pull that through. If you don't get it stuck on your hook, and pull that one down. Give it a good tug because you can always pull it back that way. The next one, and we'll put the next one around the post of this stitch. You could put more in if you choose to. Now this one, I'm going to grab that strand and we're going to tuck that in too, just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then pull that. So that's now locked that strand in place as well. Then we can just trim off those extra strands out of the way. So that's that side down. As I said, you could choose to put another one in here if you like. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depends on my mood. But normally I think 3 looks nice if you're just going for a little amount of fringe that hangs down nicely. If you want a big fluffy one, you could put another piece in there. So we're going to do the same on this side. Obviously there's no spare strands this side, we don't have to worry about that. So we're just going to go into that first stitch. Be a little fiddly to get under the first stitch there. Get in and pull your strand through, lift it through, and then make sure you keep both strands and give it a pull. And the next strand, remember we went into those little holes there, so we're going to go into that stitch, tuck it through, pull it down and through, and your final one into the post area, so we'll wrap it around the post, pull it through, hopefully both strands through. And then move that along a bit and give that tug. And there is your first. Now we're just going to repeat the exact same thing along each one, so the orange will go into this stitch around this post and a second one around that post because they don't have the single crochet rows. So one into the holes that are around, so one this side and one this side, and then 2 on the post, and we're going to do that all the way along. Don't think I need to show you, but you just snip your fringe so it's roughly all the same size. I've just hacked it for the minute, but do that and then you'll end up with this. As I said, this is reclaimed, so the yarn is a little wavy, but you get the gist of it. Once you do it with new yarn, it'll be straighter and easier to cut straight, but I think it looks really cute. And I really like the 2 different sizes, so you can have like a collection of big ones and small ones on your walls and really brighten up the place. So I hope you found that helpful, and let me know if you want to see a video on how to do these thick, double thick ones, the circular ones. The process is mostly the same, it's just done in the round and then seamed up, but these give a much more stable one than these, but they're both very nice. So I will see you all soon. You take care. Bye.